Yo, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing?
Wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of Face Mask Fantasy.
Yes, sir.
Every Tuesday,
doing,
every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm good. Had some birthday festivities this weekend. We don't need to dive into that.
Yeah, hey, if anybody missed the last stream, it was Nick's birthday.
It was on Thursday, so we're pushing a week at this point. But yeah,
hey,
appreciate
birthday
we'll
month. It's real.
Not for me. I don't do the month. I'll do the day. I'll do the week. I'll do the weekend if your celebration is like that weekend. Like, okay, sure, but I don't do the whole month. It's like there's plenty of people who also
you're not getting greedy, basically.
No, I take what I feel like is owed to me by right of being born.
Boom.
And then that's it. And then I move on. I move on with my life. But that's about it. Kind of a boring weekend from a sports perspective.
I mean, there was the Pro Bowl.
There was the Pro Bowl.
Did you even tune in? Did you even watch the Pro Bowl?
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not watch.
I heard the highlight was an interview done by a punter who didn't get to touch the football at all. That's what I heard.
Sounds about right for Pro Bowl highlights.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's that was a little taste into what's coming up after this Sunday is Sundays without football for another 5 or 6 months. But that's okay. That's what we're here for, to hopefully fill the void a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Talk Dynasty, talk fantasy in general, talk whatever it is that you all want to talk about if you care to spend your time with us, which we of course always appreciate.
And we were just discussing what we were going to discuss on Thursday, since we will have finished our ranking segments, and we're gonna go into a heavy deep dive into Dynasty prospects to buy. So if you're playing Dynasty, definitely mark Thursday on your calendar. But today, if you didn't read the thumb before you clicked on the thumb,
which is possible,
terms and conditions, it happens, but 2022, way too early redraft rankings for quarterbacks 1 through 12 is what we're going over today. And then we got some Senior Bowl wrap up, because the Senior Bowl just finished.
It did.
And every single quarterback from this year's draft was at the Senior Bowl. So we have a few prospects to discuss.
You don't see that
a few
often.
Prospects not to discuss. But
the first domino of the offseason, as far as I'm concerned. I know we still have the Super Bowl to play, but the Senior Bowl is the first. That's the first chip to fall in the offseason.
Yep.
So, but we can get into that a little bit later. As promised, like you said, top 12, way too early, 2022 quarterback rankings. John, who you got at QB1?
I mean, come on.
You already know.
I mean, take out the fact that I'm a Bills fan. It's got to be Josh Allen for pretty much everybody.
It's Josh Allen.
He has been the QB1 for 2 straight years.
Mm-hmm. And
he was the QB1 not only in total points, but in points per game this past season. He's got to be everybody's QB1 unless you're a homer and for some reason you got to put your team first. But I mean, it's got to be Josh Allen for everybody.
Allen was the overall QB1. He was the QB1 in points per game. The only thing, and again, he's my auto QB1. The only thing is, does Buffalo finally address their backfield this offseason?
I don't think it matters.
That would be that's my only It's not even like a caution. It's just like a thought.
I don't think it matters, because we saw.
I don't think
if you look at the way the season went for the Bills, they committed to the run early. They were still figuring some stuff out, figuring what Zach Moss was, who Devin Singletary was, whether or not they could trust Matt Breida. Halfway through the season, they went away from the run altogether, and they put everything on Allen. And he had some games where he was absolutely balling, but he also had some games where the offense looked unbalanced. The Jacksonville game. And then later on into the season, they recommitted to a balanced offense. And Josh Allen was still QB1. Yeah, Devin Singletary was getting 16 to 20 rushes on the ground, few passes thrown his way. Didn't detract from Josh Allen's fantasy totals.
Right.
Josh Allen was still rushing. He was still passing to his backs. I think the fact that they utilized Devin Singletary and to a certain extent Matt Breida.
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee as far as games there.
Right. I just think it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they find a running back, and when you're trying to analyze Josh Allen's ceiling for the 2022 fantasy season.
Just wanted to bring it up. I agree. I'm not concerned. It's just a talking point where it's like maybe they look to improve on Devin Singletary. That's it.
If they improve on Devin Singletary, I think that might help boost Josh Allen's ceiling, because Devin Singletary is not a home run hitter. If they find their way to a home run hitter that they can use in the pass game, that might help Josh Allen's ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, and again, not concerned, and then I'm honestly ready to move on because I feel like he's a slam dunk QB1, is like, does this prospective running back that they add like steal a couple goal line touchdowns away from Allen? That's like it, and that's just like a rhetorical question.
I think the bigger question is, can this offense keep rolling with the switch from Brian Dable to Ken Dorsey? I think it does, because, I mean, that's homegrown coaching talent. They're just going to slot in and be fine.
Yeah. They lost the piece of that puzzle that it's like, if you have to lose a piece, that's the piece you lose. Right. They still have the quarterback. That's fine.
And going forward, they have Stephon Diggs still. They're probably going to lose Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders, but they will probably replenish the ranks with somebody who is just as good, if not better. They unlocked younger. Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox this past season. Gabe Davis in the playoffs.
Isaiah McKenzie
right? Who is the in-house guy that should step into the Cole Beasley role if they move on from Cole Beasley, who, if they cut him, they can save about $8 million against the cap. But still, Josh Allen, QB1.
The other question, the pressing question is, who's the QB2? Like, that's the question.
That is, yes.
At least in this part of the conversation.
So who do you have at QB2?
I'm not sure how many other people are going to have him this high. But he only played 12 games this year. I think I saw enough. And I know that there's a bit of an injury concern now as far as like recent history. But for me, it's Lamar Jackson.
Okay. I mean, we've seen him finish QB1 2 years ago. So
we saw it happen 2 years ago. I thought it would happen again this year. It didn't, but I would attribute that more to the fact that he missed the last 5 games of the season and was playing behind the 8 ball from the jump when he lost both of his running backs, who they expected to be a major part of the 2021 offense.
And Rashad Bateman was out for the first 4 games of the year.
The start of the offseason with, I think it was core muscle surgery, right. So that set him back. That's always news you don't want to hear in general, but even more so with a rookie who is learning the playbook and building a rapport for the first time with his offense, with the players he's going to be playing with. So yeah, that made it difficult. Marquise Brown was excellent at the beginning of the season.
He was wide receiver 5 for the first 6 weeks of the season.
Mark Andrews was excellent all season long, but a healthy Lamar, you feel even more confident about that. He took steps forward as a passer this year, and he's still the most elite of the rushing threats at the quarterback position. He was down there in fantasy points per game. He was 7th this year in like your standard quarterback score in points per game. But again, he missed 5 games. There's a very real chance that goes higher because players like Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes came on strong to end the season. And, you just naturally start supplanting people when you're playing and others aren't. I'm still willing to swing for the fences on Lamar, and I am still willing to rank him this high.
My only concern there is because he didn't have his running backs and he was forced to throw more than he ever has and more than anybody was ever projecting him to. And more than Greg Roman has ever opened up. The offense was opened up more than Greg Roman offense ever has been opened up.
Sure.
I don't know if that was out of necessity. I think it might be out of necessity, and because of that, some of those pass attempts come down. And some of those rushing attempts that he had to be the whole offense. Go to J.K. Dobbins, go to Gus Edwards, instead of him running the rock, and they go back to that more traditional offense like what we saw last season, or 2 seasons ago in 2020 when he finished quarterback 10. Now, I know he finished quarterback 7 in points per game this year. I have him at quarterback 6 because I'm expecting a little bit. And I know you put a premium on quarterbacks with rushing upside. And in the past, you've proven out correct. You put Jalen Hurts up super high through the first 10 games of the year, 12 games of the year. That was proven out correct. It's just with Lamar Jackson, he's now going to be 3 years removed from finishing QB1.
Yeah.
And he will have finished QB7 in points per game in 2021 and QB10 overall in 2020. And I think we're going to see the 2020 offense more so than the 2021 offense, just because they'll have all their running backs healthy. I mean, they're not going to be running out Tyson Williams at the beginning of the year and then figuring out that Devonta Freeman can run the ball again and trying the Latavius Murray experiment. And it's,
they'll have their guys back.
Right.
All I'll say to that is, and then I'm done. I'll let you go to your QB2. Or if you have anything last minute to say is, yes, Lamar finished as QB10 last year, but in 2020, he got better as the season went on. For the second half of the season, he was the overall QB1. So again, yes, like it did, his finish was QB10. I'm willing to go back to the well one more time as far as putting him this high. That's
okay.
All. Just the second half of his 2020, again, when he was healthy and he had J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, he was the overall QB1, and now he adds Bateman. So I feel fine about him. Obviously, it's a little bit more like what have you done for me lately question is starting to creep in. I will address that if he falls short of expectations again in 2022.
Fair enough.
But for now, I'll go back to the well one more time.
And yeah, I didn't feel great putting Lamar Jackson at 6. And I could honestly see myself swapping him with the guy that I have at 4 right now, pending some news coming out about the guy that I have ranked at 4 right now, but we'll get there when we get there. At quarterback 2, I have Justin Herbert because he finished quarterback 2 this past year.
Yeah, he did.
And he finished in second in points per game this past year.
Yeah, he did.
And for the most part, outside of Mike Williams, who they probably will re-sign because they have, I believe, the 4th most cap space in the NFL going into next year, and will want to maximize Justin Herbert being on his rookie deal.
Yes.
We could see all the pieces return. And he finished QB2 with all these pieces that he had. Eckler, Keenan Allen.
Yeah, Mike Williams.
We saw some growth from Josh Palmer. We saw Jalen Guyton and a few other guys mix in there. But Justin Herbert's just been great.
He's just that.
And I know the NFL or fantasy is moving away from the pocket passer towards the guys with the rushing upside.
Yeah.
But Justin Herbert can move. And
yes,
he has one of the best arms in the NFL. And he's surrounded by talent that is made to maximize his passing. I mean, they don't have a running back. They have the premier pass-catching running back in the NFL right now. Or one of them. one of the top, one of the top three
of the elite options. Yeah,
right, and they use him as such.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it points to Justin Herbert. I mean, I think he's going to be QB2 again.
It's fair. I mean, it's got a good offensive line. Rashawn Slater graded out, I think, as one of the best left tackles in the league this year as a rookie.
Yeah.
So his future, as far as the protection in front of him, is strong. Weapons are good, and Justin Herbert himself is what a prototypical quarterback looks like. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about Justin Herbert. I just don't have him ranked as high because I do still, you kind of already alluded to this, I put a bit of a premium on guys who can run. Are those dudes a higher injury risk? Yeah, of course.
They're also, I mean, yes, they offer somebody, or they offer a floor.
Right.
But sometimes with these rushing quarterbacks, yes, the floor is super high, but the ceiling isn't as high as some of these other guys who can move, be mobile, and have the arm.
Right.
We saw that play out with, I know you had just Jalen Hurts ranked, I think, QB6 coming into this past year.
I did.
And for large swaths of the season, he was QB6 or outperforming that. Mm-hmm. But we saw him regress back to the mean because he isn't the passer that he is as a runner, and it evened out to him being more, QB9.
He finished as the QB9.
Right. So yes, if everything goes your way and you're a rushing quarterback, you can finish QB1 and have that magical season like Lamar Jackson did in 2019. But if everything doesn't go your way, some of these passing quarterbacks or pass first quarterbacks still vault ahead of you at the end of season rankings. So that's why I have Justin Herbert here, because as a passer, he's impeccable. His weapons really can't be picked apart at this point. They have the 4th most cap space in the NFL, so they might go out and get more weapons, which would only help Justin Herbert. So, yeah. Justin Herbert, QB2. He was QB9 in 2020.
His rookie year.
His floor is super high. His ceiling is as high as anybody not named Josh Allen. So, my way too early rankings have Justin Herbert ranked QB2. That might be recency bias. That is subject to change because these are way too early rankings.
They are way too early rankings. We can't put too much stock into it. It's just an early blueprint.
Right. So who's your QB3? Are you going back to the well with rushing quarterbacks?
I am.
Okay. Is this where you have Kyler?
Even though he just unfollowed his team on social media and caused a shitstorm in the media, it is Kyler Murray as my QB3. Look, all I know is I don't follow my employer on social media. I know it's different for it's different for athletes.
Yeah.
I know it's different for athletes. Just in jest there, but I do have Kyler as currently as my QB3. Again, I am willing to swing for the fences with the rushing upside. Kyler missed time this year as well, but he was 4th in fantasy points per game. Again, in your typical score. If you have crazy QB scoring, obviously this might be a little different. But for anybody who plays a little bit more traditional scoring, Kyler finished 4th in points per game. Only played 14 games. He missed 3 games. So again, there's certainly injury risk that comes with these guys.
And he was QB1 by points per game.
I think before
when they had DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, so before the injury, they both started missing time around the same, like week 9, 10, 11 is when they were both missing time. So we've seen Kyler's ceiling because he had QB1 performances in 2020. Kyler did.
He was the QB2 in 2020. Yeah.
So I almost feel like I'm shorting him. Maybe I should have Kyler number 2.
I have Kyler at 3.
Okay, you have Kyler at 3. Okay, so we are in lockstep here.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, the proof is in the pudding despite the missed time. Has had stretches like for full halves of the season, he is the QB1, finishes top 5 in points per game.
To me, he's Lamar Jackson with better weapons and less of an emphasis on running the ball with other players. Which is why I have Lamar Jackson ranked 6 and Kyler Murray ranked 3.
You mean other running? You mean like running backs?
Yeah, not talking about the quarterbacks rushing upside and the quarterbacks willing to run, but the other players in the offense.
Okay, got it.
The Ravens run the ball more than the Cardinals with their other players, and Lamar Jackson doesn't have a player that is the caliber of DeAndre Hopkins or anywhere close, as far as I'm concerned, at the wide receiver position.
That might be changing soon. Actually.
That might be changing. So we do have to keep that into. We have to take that into consideration when having Kyler at 3. But if they move on from AJ Green, see what type of weapons they add in free agency, if any. I know AJ Green was a nice story and he did well.
He did do well.
There are players that have higher ceilings than a 30-something-year-old AJ Green at this point. So, I mean, we could see his overall weapons improve. They are also losing Christian Kirk. So we have to, and Zach Ertz. So he's losing some weapons. There's some friction with his team.
Yeah, whatever.
But if we're assuming he's going to be back with the Cardinals,
which he will,
I got to put Kyler Murray 3. Again, to your point, QB2 in 2020, QB4 in points per game in 2021, and what many consider to be a down year for him. And for large swaths of the season, he was ranked higher than Josh Allen.
Yeah, it went into a down swell like in the second half of the season, missing time due to the injury, and then he was kind of up and down coming back from the injury. It's a higher ask, it's a taller ask to ask Lamar Jackson, to ask Kyler Murray to stay healthy for 17 games. But if they play 15 games, you're talking about, I mean, it feels like a safe top 5 finish with top 3 upside with guys like Kyler. So yeah, 3 feels good for now. Let's see how DeAndre Hopkins recovers this offseason.
I mean, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's a Hall of Famer.
He's a Hall of Famer. I'm still willing to bet that Hopkins is still good enough to elevate an entire offense.
Yeah, remember this is the same DeAndre Hopkins who was a wide receiver 1 with Tom Savage and Ryan Fitzpatrick 5 years ago.
Yep.
And this is the best passer DeAndre Hopkins has ever worked with. So, I mean.
Well, Deshaun Watson, but.
Okay, yes.
But second best.
There you go.
So.
Speaking of Deshaun Watson, we're not including him in our rankings just because his future is so cloudy still.
Yeah.
So.
If we know he's playing, he's obviously top 12, but we don't know that he's playing.
Yeah, he could be on a suspension for the first 6 games. He could not play again this year altogether, so we really don't know. So because of that, he's out of our rankings altogether. But at QB4, this is where I have Patrick Mahomes.
Me too.
QB4 in 2021.
This is as low as
QB4 in 2020, and the QB5 in 2021 points per game, in what many consider to be kind of a down year for him up until, I mean, we were moving into the fantasy playoffs.
Right.
The narrative with the Chiefs were they're not right, something's wrong, up until the end of the season where everything clicked.
Yeah, they weren't good in the middle of the season.
Yeah, and they got rolling again. If Pat Mahomes was what he was at the end of the season and into the playoffs for the full season, he would have finished higher than QB4. He's playing with 2 Hall of Famers, and again, I expect them to go out and address both running back and that tertiary player in that offense, because I don't think they can keep using Byron Pringle and Mecole Hardman to that effect. So the overall, yes, their offense is going to get a little bit older, but I expect them to upgrade that ancillary piece, which should only help Pat Mahomes. There's no way you can rank him outside of the top 5. So right now he's 4 for me.
Okay, fair enough. That's kind of where I'm at with him as well. Yeah, I mean, you kind of wrapped it up pretty nicely. I mean, he's good enough to support high-end performances from multiple players. But he himself has not finished as QB1 for, what, 4 years now? I guess we're going on 4 years.
Has he finished QB1?
Well, I thought he did in his first year as a starter. He threw for 50 touchdowns.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So
I didn't know if that was the same year as Lamar Jackson.
He has been the overall QB1, but it's been 3 years. It'll be going on 4 years. I think he probably needs one more slight upgrade in the offense to get to a place where we feel a little bit more comfortable from a fantasy perspective to rank him higher. For now, 4 feels good. 4 feels safe. I mean, he's probably the safest. He's the safest quarterback on the board, but he's also a threat any given draft to go first overall. And I'm officially out on that strategy. It wasn't a bad one for the past couple of years, but if he goes QB1, that feels like a mistake by whoever does that.
Yes. I think you should be going QB3.
Yeah,
is where I expect to see him go.
Honestly, it might feel even better to see a couple quarterbacks go before he gets selected this year.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, when we're talking about his season where he finished QB1,
but I wouldn't go nuts drafting
Travis Kelce was 28, 29.
Allen and Tyler go first
and Tyreek Hill was 24. I mean, we're talking about a different team then versus now, even though he's playing with the same Hall of Fame players.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
4 feels good. 4 feels fine.
Yep.
I mean, he's rock solid. He's safe.
I can't envision having him on any of my teams. I feel like he's going to be overdrafted based off of the name that is Patrick Mahomes.
It's possible.
I feel like you're going to be able to find value later that will equate to basically, an approximation of what Pat Mahomes can give you. He's one of the steadiest bets for QB4, QB5 production.
Right.
But he's probably going to be drafted 2 to 3 spots ahead of where I have him.
Probably not
going to have many of him in redraft.
Probably not a league winner. Maybe, but
he could be.
We'll see.
If they hit on that.
But yeah, I always like finding QB values. But for now, we'll skip down to I'll go down to QB5. This is where I have Herbert, and it does feel kind of low. I have nothing bad to say. I put a bit of a premium more on guys who I know are going to run. I could probably I could give myself a case to put Herbert over Mahomes.
Yeah. I have Herbert.
I think I could
Mahomes.
do that today. Yeah, I mean, you do. I think I could do that today. I'm still willing to bet on the talent of Lamar and Kyler, but this does feel a little low for Herbert. But I couldn't leave him out of the top 5. He's fantastic. It's just, it depends on where can you get the guys with the high rushing floors. That's the question that I ask myself, like anytime I'm in a draft. And Herbert will get drafted before the guys that I have ranked ahead of him. I know that to be true. So I might not have many Justin Herbert shares this year, and maybe that's a bad strategy by me. He's excellent. This isn't like putting him at 5 is not, or maybe I'll even say, tentatively he's 4. Mahomes is 5 for me. It's just the rushing upside of some of these other guys is a little too much for me to say no to, at least for now.
Fair enough.
Who you got at 5? Oh,
so I'm switching.
Yo, you're switching. Okay,
I'm switching. Lamar Jackson is now my QB5. Had him at QB6 coming into this stream. Based off of your points that you made, I gotta move him up 1.
Okay,
gotta move him up 1.
There you go.
One of the highest floors and one of the highest ceilings we've ever seen from a fantasy quarterback came from Lamar Jackson. And you're right, to your point, 2020, at the end of the year, he was, over the last few games of the year, last half of the year, he was QB1 once J.K. Dobbins came into the fold. And now he has Rashad Bateman instead of Sammy Watkins. So, yeah, gotta have him QB5, had him QB6. Lamar Jackson's my QB5.
Oh, there you go. I win. Or I did a thing today.
You've been doing this to my rankings, for the past few weeks. I come in with my rankings, and then we sit down and have a discussion about it, and then I gotta move things around a little bit. So,
and this is why we don't share our rankings before the show with each other.
Yes.
The conversation
makes it more interesting.
Makes it more interesting because you're hearing the name associated to the ranking for the first time from each other's point of view. So
right.
There you go.
The person that I had at QB5.
Okay, there you go.
Over Lamar Jackson, who I now moved to QB6, was Joe Burrow.
Okay.
From weeks 10 to week 18, he was QB7. And you saw with Cincy, they moved away from using Joe Mixon to the extent that they were using him in the first 8 to 10 games. They were a run-first offense through the first 8 games, I would say. And then we saw change once we saw T. Higgins really blow up. And, obviously, Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
And they still have Tyler Boyd in there.
Yeah.
And not to take away from Joe Mixon, but I think that sea change moves into next season. I think we see.
Yeah,
we've seen Joe Burrow's growth to the point where now this is where we have to put him. He has the best group of weapons in the NFL as from a pass catching standpoint, and then we have Joe Mixon, who finished RB2 on the year, RB3 on the year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Joe Burrow, QB6. He was QB8 in 2021, QB10 in points per game. But if you look at the last 8 games, the last 10 games, we saw a different Joe Burrow. We're seeing a different Joe Burrow in the playoffs. The only thing I can say is they seem to have some issues in the red zone that they need to work out, which is why we've seen Evan McPherson do what he's done.
McGoatson.
Once they figure that out, Joe Burrow can be QB1 if they figure that out. Joe Burrow can be not QB1. Joe Burrow can be Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
From this past year, if they figure those red zone issues out. But until they do, he's more QB6 to me. But I have him QB6. I had him QB5. Lamar Jackson jumps.
You now have him 6. I can't put. I love. Who can't be like super impressed and enthusiastic about Joe Burrow after the past couple of weeks? I can't put him over Lamar Jackson from a fantasy perspective. Not yet.
I was salivating at the weapons when I was putting in my initial rankings.
Sure.
To your point, Lamar Jackson. So yeah.
No, it makes sense. And to your point about them being more of a rushing team, you have to like in the first half of the season, that probably had a lot to do with them easing Burrow back in, coming off of the injury. So
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So he's going to be further removed from that at the start of next season. So yeah, you can feel better about that pass first offensive philosophy from the jump week 1. I have an interesting kind of caveat here. I'm going to kind of lump my 6 and 7 together.
Okay.
Because I have Burrow, but I also have Stafford. It's the Super Bowl quarterbacks. This is, I guess, maybe kind of silly and splitting hairs. I'm not sure who you have at 7. I have the winner of this game at 6, and I have the loser at 7. Here's here's just my weird way of thinking through things, because Stafford has excellent weapons too. I agree with everything you said about Joe Burrow. I don't need to repeat all of that. But you can say a very similar thing about Stafford. What you can say about Joe Burrow, you can say a lot of it from a fantasy perspective is equivalent to Matthew Stafford. Burrow's probably a better mover. He can run a little bit better. You're not expecting a whole lot in the rushing department from Joe Burrow, but I feel like he can do it better than Stafford can. But Stafford's weapons are right up there as well if Odell re-signs, or depending on what happens with Robert Woods. Regardless,
I think it's one or the other. Looking at their cap situation,
they probably can't retain both.
Right. I think they're going to, if they want to retain Odell, who I think will be highest bidder. He's in highest bidder territory.
Now
after
he's
completely revamped his image. He's going to be coming off a Super Bowl appearance, possibly a Super Bowl win. He's going to go a highest bidder. I don't know if he comes back to the Rams.
Which might not be the Rams.
Right.
Yeah. So,
but because of that, I think it's either Robert Woods or Odell.
And that's fine. Burrow's weapons are better, there's no doubt. But Stafford's are pretty damn good. The reason I say I have the winner at 6 and the loser at 7 is it just always it feels like the team that loses the Super Bowl, you just I keep that Super Bowl hangover thought in the back of my mind, just like, is this team a little bit more prone to letdowns here and there the following season? We've seen some pretty damn good quarterbacks be recent Super Bowl losers, so they're great. It's Mahomes and it's Brady. And then sandwiched in between is a Jimmy Garoppolo and a Jared Goff, who we saw those teams suffer some injuries or fall off the following year.
Very different situations. Very
different situations. So, but it happened. So I just keep that in the back of my mind. Therefore, that's why I'm saying if the Rams win, I might be willing to put Stafford at 6 and Burrow at 7. That's my only thing.
I'm a little bit more firm in my rankings, and once you make your point, I'll make mine.
But I'm right there as far as where I have Joe Burrow. If he wins this game, yeah, I'll have him at 6. If he loses, I'm only knocking him down to 7, and that's just based off of honestly a superstition. That's about it. He's excellent. There's not I'm not trying to knock him if the Bengals lose this game. I might just naturally gravitate to putting Stafford at 6 as the winner of the game. Just like the vibes that the Rams will go into 2022 with might be stronger, and that just might be something I feel better about when I'm making my decisions when I'm drafting.
I'm a little bit more firm in my rankings. I just said that a second ago with those two, but I have them in the exact same spots.
You have Stafford at 7.
Yes.
Then. Okay.
The reason why that's not subject to change for me based off of the victor in this Super Bowl win is the Rams have one of the best defenses on paper ever assembled, and they're all going to be pretty much back. The Bengals don't have a good defense, so they've been playing really well. They shut down the Chiefs,
really
but on paper. They don't have the defense. They don't have a defense that matches up to the Rams.
Fine.
Most teams in the NFL
don't feel as confident about that going into next year.
Because of that, I think Burrow's just going to still have to do a little bit more than Stafford, even coming into next year, regardless of what happens. I know the superstition is valid, and you bring up valid points, but being worried that the loser between Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow is going to end up like Jared Goff and Jimmy G.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, the comparables aren't there. Those quarterbacks are not in the same stratosphere of where we put the quarterbacks that are in the Super Bowl this year. This might be one of the best. Oh no, we just had a great quarterback matchup last year, but this is one of the better quarterback matchups in recent years for the Super Bowl. So to me, I'm a little bit more static in my rankings for those two, but I have them in the same spots. Okay. Now to speak on Matt Stafford, QB 5 this past year, QB 10 in points per game, QB 15 in 2020, but I think we can throw out anything historically when we're talking about Matt Stafford for 2022 rankings, just because, I mean, the Detroit Lions. True. Stafford is a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Pass first, but playing with some of the best weapons of his career. And regardless of whether it's Robert Woods, and I would rather Odell, but
sure,
Robert Woods, Odell, they still have Van Jefferson.
Yep.
But the other reason I'm ranking Stafford one step lower than Joe Burrow is the Rams are up against the cap.
They
don't have any real draft capital. The Bengals are going to be able to spend a first-round pick, spend a second-round pick on somebody, and improve their team regardless of what happens in free agency. And they have a bunch of money in free agency as well. So, yeah. I mean, I feel like Matt Stafford has the best weapons he's going to be playing with, best team he's going to be playing with, because the GM went out of his way to forego all future considerations to throw everything into the basket for this year, maybe next year.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, I mean, that the Bengals team can still add to itself, still get better moving into next year as a whole. They can address their O-line issues, which are still glaring.
Those are still glaring, yeah.
And because of that, I have him ranked one step ahead of him. Now, if we're looking at them both as passers, I think they're pretty equal right now. So yeah, I agree with your rankings. I'm just a little bit more static.
You're more firm on you're good on. Well, you're good with having Burrow clearly over or firmly over Stafford. Got it. Okay, that's fair. I mean, we're in the same ballpark on both of them. Let's put it that way. Who do you got at 8?
Is this where we split?
Probably. Maybe not.
This was difficult for me because I had two guys here.
There are unknown situations.
One guy who you ranked. I mean, it's a little difficult. We had Aaron Rodgers finish QB6 this year. We don't know where he's going to go. If we knew that he was going to stay in Green Bay, maybe I'd have him here. But the person that I have here, I have him at 10 just because there's uncertainty. We don't know where he's going to go.
Okay, fair enough.
I have Dak Prescott.
Dak.
QB 1 in points per game, albeit small sample size in 2020.
Yup.
QB 9 in points per game this past year, but the QB 7 overall just because he stayed healthy for the majority of the year.
Yep, he played.
But yeah, I mean, this is I feel like right in line with where his value should be, and I feel like this is where I'm going to be investing in quarterback when I'm looking at redraft rankings. When I'm going into a draft, I'm thinking this is the sweet spot for me for quarterbacks. I'm not paying up super high unless I can land a Josh Allen, who I still think is going to be a little bit out of my reach based off of how I like to draft. But Dak Prescott has QB1 ability, has offensive weapons, and he's been a QB1 every year that he's been healthy. And this could have just been an off year just because he was still coming back from injury.
It's possible.
So, yeah, I got Dak. I got Dak here.
Okay.
And again, it would be subject to change if I had concrete news on Rodgers. I would probably be in lockstep with you, but make your point for Rodgers.
Just that, I mean, there's not really much to say about Aaron Rodgers from a fantasy perspective. I mean, he's not an overall QB1 option. you're just relying on the fact that he's one of the best to ever do it. That's pretty much it. He's one of the best to ever do it. And if he chooses to play, he might just have his pick of. I think the way the contract is structured is if he walks away from Green Bay, he's kind of a free agent. He'll have his list, or he'll have his options as to where to go. He'll be able to choose a scenario.
Yep.
So he's not going to choose a situation that you don't feel great about. He's going to choose one that's rock solid. Denver,
he will jump up a bunch of spots for me.
Or Pittsburgh, even. Like, sure. I don't think he's going to follow Brady's footsteps and go to Tampa. I don't think he does that, but he's going to end up in a situation where it's like, I feel fine about this if he plays. I mean, Rodgers has proven himself to be kind of an oddball. He floats retirement out there. He does other things. Not that that's odd, but like he likes keeping the spotlight on him without actually having anybody know what he's actually going to do, which therefore keeps the spotlight on him. And Rodgers loves that. He loves that game. So he'll keep us on our toes, and sure, he may ultimately retire, I guess. He could,
I don't think that
could have that option, I guess. But I don't think, I almost feel like the playoff loss is going to really drive him out of Green Bay and motivate him to go somewhere else and play somewhere else. And if that scenario plays out, which I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt to Rodgers playing in 2022, I feel fine having him at 8.
And I mean, we could have a larger discussion about Rodgers here because I don't think Rodgers goes to the AFC. I think the AFC is too stacked. If he has a road to the Super Bowl, which is what he's trying to get to, he'll stay in the NFC. Now, because of that, his choices are
limited
his choices are limited, right? I mean, he's been speculated to go to the Browns. He's been speculated to go, maybe he was seen in Tennessee. Maybe he's going to the Titans. He was speculated all season long to go to the Steelers and
Steelers and the Broncos.
Halfway through the season, people started speculating Broncos, right? All AFC teams.
Yeah.
So it really depends on Aaron Rodgers for me.
Depends on what he wants
QB6 on the
to
year
do.
though. QB3 in 2020. QB8 in points per game in 2021. But if you look, remember he had that one game at the beginning of the year. First game of the year, he scored virtually 0 fantasy points. If you take that game out of the equation, which was clearly an anomaly, he finished QB5 as a pocket passer, as a pure pocket passer. And you can bet his points per game would have jumped up. I can give you that information right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. He would have been 4th in points per game if you take out that first game. So it's very possible we are under-ranking Aaron Rodgers, and I kind of feel like I am. And again, he did that with one of the best wide receivers in the NFL and one of the better running back tandems in the NFL, but really not too much at secondary and ancillary pieces as far as the passing attack is concerned. We wouldn't rank Allen Lazard and MVS very highly. He did this without Robert Tonyan, his number 1 tight end, who he was very fond of the season prior. So, in what should have been probably more of a down year for Rodgers, he still finished very high. So I have to say I have the feeling that I'm ranking him a little bit too low. It's just the uncertainty. So that my ranking on him is subject to change. But I mean, I agree with where you have him.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm good with having him at 8. I don't think he's overranked right now.
Underranked is what I said. I have him. I mean, I have him QB 10.
Maybe,
I think that's underranked.
Well, at 10 he might be underranked a little bit, but yeah, I think I'm good with where he's at right at 8. Because I think he's gonna pick a situation that he wants. Like, he's going to handpick the situation he finds himself in 2022. Should be a favorable one as far as putting up fantasy production.
Hey, if he can find his way to going to the 49ers,
sure,
that would be incredible. That would be incredible. That would be absolutely
incredible. Happen, but sure.
Hey, you never know.
You never know.
Stranger things. But again, I think he will want to stay out of the AFC, so his path to a Super Bowl will be slightly more solidified.
Should be more favorable. Should be easier because you only have to deal with Stafford and
Kyler
and Kyler and Dak.
Right.
That's pretty much it. It's much deeper in the AFC.
And the Cowboys seem to shoot themselves in the foot. Cardinals seem to shoot themselves in the foot. So really, you're only going to be
NFC
your
is
serious
wide open.
competition is the Rams and kind of nobody else without Brady.
Right.
So yeah.
Right.
I could very easily see myself putting Aaron Rodgers 8 as soon as we get a little bit more concrete news on where he's going, and he could rank even higher. He could, because I feel like I am underselling him, putting him at 10. But uncertainty, got to put him at 10.
Yeah, the uncertainty is a factor, at least right now, because it's way too early. But that's okay. Who do you got at 9?
This is where I have your boy, Jalen Hurts.
This is where I have him too.
QB 6 in points per game in 2021. QB 9 finish.
I hit that on the nose.
You did. Props on props on props. You were very early to that. I didn't hear anybody else talking about that, and I tried to keep my ear to the streets to kind of see. Once you said that, once you said to me, I got Jalen Hurts ranked as QB 6. I was like, whoa, all right, let me check this out and see if he's the only one out here feeling this way and if there's any validity to this. And you were really one of the only guys ranking him that high. The only person ranking him that high. And it proved out correct. Exactly. 2021, points per game, QB 6. So all the props in the world. Good job.
Appreciate it.
But QB 9 on the year.
QB 9 on the year.
I expect them to go out and improve their pass game. I expect them not to be so reliant on the run game. And because of that, he could have a little bit higher of a ceiling in 2022.
Maybe. He still has a long way to go as far as becoming a passer in this league.
Yeah, but yes, your first read is Devonta Smith
himself,
and your second read is Goddard, and then who else you got out there?
Sure. It was once again a pretty bare cupboard as far as a talent perspective for the Eagles pass catchers, but they did add Devonta Smith in the draft last year. Dallas Goedert proved himself. 3 first-round
picks this year. They should be an improved team next year, and I think that shows up in what Jalen Hurts gives you.
Yeah, this is a big year for him. This is probably the make it or break it year for him as far as what is his future as a starter in the NFL, if there is one. I hope he's up to the task, just not just for me as a fan, but for him as a player. I'm not sure that he is up to the task though, which is why I'm not going to be as bullish on him this year. Because now there's tape on him. There's a full season of, I like and I hate that phrase, there's tape on him, because you kind of have an inkling of what players are going to be coming in. You never truly know, but certain players, it's like, okay, we have a scouting report, at least from enough college games to know what this player likes to do. But, NFL offense is a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, this doesn't account for growth in the NFL. Right, yeah.
But, I'm not sure how much growth we can expect from Jalen Hurts as far as a passer in this league. I hope it's an improvement, but he doesn't have the strongest arm. It's decent. I think it's a little better than most give him credit for, but it's definitely not one of the best in the NFL. And he had some accuracy issues. He had some drop issues as well, but he had some accuracy issues.
Yeah. And he had issues where the coaching staff clearly didn't know what they were doing for the first 6 games.
For the first half of the season, they had a game plan that was not working in any way. They switched things up, to their credit. That was great, and Hurts was fine. But yeah, you can't play that way in today's NFL. The Eagles are going to have to go back to the drawing board as far as looking for success in the passing game. I'm just not sure. This is not like I don't think. I'm not sure if Jalen Hurts can or will make those improvements as a passer. So I think his ADP is going to obviously be higher than it was last year. With that, and what I think might be a little bit of potentially falling short of expectations relative to like second year growth as a quarterback, I'm probably not going to have as many shares of Jalen Hurts this year. But the rushing floor is still very much there. If they improve their pass catchers, the Eagles do. Obviously, Hurts his floor rises yet again. He should be a pretty good option for fantasy again when you couple in the rushing impact. I'm just not as bullish on him this year as I was last year, because it's like okay, now you've got your feet wet. You got a year in the league. You proved that you can do some stuff, but now your stock is up. So everybody, so people are going to start gravitating to that. That's when I fade out.
Yeah, we may have seen his ceiling. I think his floor is higher than most, again, due to his rushing upside. In 2021, he finished in the QB1 range in 11 out of 15 starts. So, to his credit, he should continue to perform as at least a low-end QB1, which leads me to believe that a QB9 ranking is pretty fair for him. Yeah, that's where I have Jalen Hurts, and you do too. So I'm glad we're in lockstep there.
Boom. There you go.
And you already know who my QB10 is, Aaron Rodgers, until further notice.
Yeah, we're flip-flopped at 8 and 10. This is actually where I have Dak.
Okay. All right.
This is where I have Dak. And you know, to your point about him, QB9 in points per game this past year. Offense sputtered a little bit. That's going to be attributed to Dak. But to your point, if that drops his ADP a little bit, the numbers are still going to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm ranking him 10. I have no problem drafting him as the QB10 and expecting him to finish as the QB7 or 6.
Which I think is on point for him. Yeah.
I mean, if they retain any of their pass catching talent, and if it's Amari Cooper, if it's Michael Gallup, or if they figure something else out.
They've been vocal about keeping Amari Cooper.
The tune did change on him from what was at first reported at the beginning of the offseason. I do think Cooper stays. And it's going to be a high-octane passing offense once again. The numbers will be there. And Dallas retained Kellen Moore. I almost said Kellen Mond. Kellen Moore is their offensive coordinator. So there's going to be some continuity there. And the offense, they sputtered, but they put up numbers. For fantasy, all we care about is the numbers. We're not having a conversation about the Dallas Cowboys, the NFL team. We're talking about the Dallas Cowboys for fantasy football, and they put up the numbers. So Dak at QB10, it was up and down. It was inconsistent. That's why he's here, but he has safe QB1 upside. So, yeah, this is going to be a good spot in the draft, I think, to try to nab him, because you are not going to have to spend the pick that you had to last year to get Dak.
No. And, I mean, I know he's going to be losing some weapons. He's probably going to lose Dalton Schultz. And he's probably going to lose Michael Gallup. But Cedric Wilson filled in admirably. And before this past year, everybody was in on Blake Jarwin and not Dalton Schultz until Blake Jarwin got injured, and then everybody went in on Dalton Schultz out of necessity, and then we saw what happened this past year. QB or tight end 3 finish. But yeah, I think Dak is probably where I'm gonna be shooting in this range, specifically for Dak in this range in redraft leagues. And now you know that, so you can use that against me.
There you go. I intend to.
Yep. All right. This is where 10. It gets interesting.
Yeah, it is. We had all the same guys in the top 10, just slightly different order.
I'm really intrigued. Who is your QB11?
Yeah, I don't know that we stay the same here, but we might. I am looking for, at this point in rankings, at this point in the draft, I'm looking for a guy who I feel like has a chance to take the next step. And in his second year, when his ADP should be dirt cheap, but I also just believe in the situation because I don't think there's anywhere to go but up. I am very intrigued by Justin Fields.
Okay.
And I have Justin Fields ranked at 11. The numbers this past year weren't great, right? Numbers weren't fantastic. He was I think he was outside. I think he was outside the top 20 in fantasy points per game. But obviously, it was a very up and down.
And a lot of that's Nagy. We all
actually, I think he might have been outside the top 30 in fantasy points per game. But yeah, it's really hard for me in this specific scenario to look at what happened in Chicago last year, look at the fantasy points per game, look at the finish, given that Fields was a rookie. He was in and out of the lineup due to injury. Andy Dalton started the season. There were some brutal games for the Bears on offense where they did quite literally nothing. And it felt like, I mean, the word I remember, if you followed the Bears at all, and whether it was social media, if you watched ESPN, if you whatever, the word malpractice was thrown around when talking about Matt Nagy's the job that he had done as a coach and what he had done as far as Justin Fields' development. It was as bad as it gets in Chicago this year. There were a slew of other things going on. Allen Robinson fell off the face of the earth this year. Everything fell apart for Chicago. But that potentially changes this year. They fired Matt Nagy. Who'd they hire? They hired Matt Eberflus, right? As their head coach.
I didn't see who loose is what they're saying.
The Flus is loose. He's obviously going to take care of the defense. I didn't see who they hired as an offensive coordinator.
I did not either.
But it's going to be somebody that, like, obviously the Bears' plan is going to be catered around building an offense that works for Justin Fields. This is their opportunity to do that, to start fresh, to get in there, just his second year, first year as the clear bona fide starter, and build the offense around him, not Andy Dalton, and not whatever the hell Matt Nagy was trying to do in a colossally failed experiment. Fields is the future in Chicago. I think the weapons there could use some improvement, but there are pieces there. There are pieces in place. The run game you feel strong about. Darnell Mooney is an interesting player. He's not on that elite tier or even upper echelon tier, but he looks like a pretty damn good player. He's
just outside of that upper echelon tier.
Yeah, he's not far. I mean, they've got some other interesting pieces. I think Chicago is in a spot to marginally upgrade the offense, but they're probably not going to splash any stars, which means Justin Fields is going to have to do more in his second season. He's going to have to overcompensate for a Bears offense that might be good but not great. Might lead to a lot of rushing production from Fields. I am tentatively prepared to feel very optimistic about him. Second season in the NFL, first as the starter, with an offense that is going to be catered to his strengths.
We hope.
I feel fine here taking a shot on the upside. Is there downside? Yeah, of course. Let's see how the vibes are in camp, or sooner than camp, like at the draft even, and go from there. But I feel good about his fantasy prospects. Again, it's kind of like a Jalen Hurts situation. It's like, we're not having a conversation about how good he is as an NFL quarterback. We're having a conversation about how good he is as a fantasy quarterback. And the tools are there for Justin Fields to deliver a QB1, maybe a low-end QB1, but a QB1 performance.
No, I think your head's in the right place.
Yeah, it is. Thanks.
But I think you're choosing the wrong second-year quarterback. I'm going QB 11 in my rankings, Trey Lance. Because everything you said about Justin Fields holds true for Trey Lance, except that Trey Lance has elite weapons already.
He's in a better situation.
He's elite weapons already, where he doesn't even have to do as much because he can just hand the ball off or dump it off to Deebo Samuel, and let Deebo Samuel do all the work. He already has Brandon Ayuk, who is a pretty damn good de facto number one receiver in that offense. I mean, he's not the number one weapon. He's not even the number two weapon, but he is the number one wide receiver in that offense because of how they use Deebo. But they also have George Kittle, who is firmly in his prime. They also have Elijah Mitchell, who is a better running back right now than David Montgomery is. I'll put my money on it.
Dang, that's a take.
Yeah, man.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I think
the pieces are there for he's in a more stable situation with Shanahan.
Everything you're saying about Justin Fields is true. But if we're talking about who has higher upside here, we got to go with the guy who's basically in a similar situation with miles better weapons in Trey Lance, who was thought of to be the highest upside quarterback in this draft, or in that draft.
Well, and he was taken. He was drafted as such.
Right. So Trey Lance, for me, overall. I mean, we saw Jimmy G in basically the same offense, finished QB 17, QB 16 in points per game. I expect Trey Lance to be a more fantasy-friendly quarterback than Jimmy G.
No doubt.
So yeah, I respect your point. I think you're choosing the wrong second-year quarterback to make that point with. Respectfully. I got Trey Lance there,
and I like Trey Lance. I like Trey Lance coming into.
And Dan, we're gonna get to the chat in a second. We're gonna finish out our rankings, then we'll run through them because both Nick and I have different rankings, and then we'll get to your question on Zeke and Pollard too. But at QB 12, I have Kirk Cousins.
Me too.
Finished 11 in points per game in 2021. Finished 11th in overall QB points in 2021. Finished 11 in overall finish in 2020 as well. He's one of the steadiest QBs, 11 type guys.
He's steady. He's boring as hell. I feel like the general consensus on Cousins, like the casual fan, thinks Cousins stinks or Cousins isn't good enough. And maybe if you're having the NFL conversation, sure, okay, is Cousins good enough to win you games at the highest level? I don't know.
Probably not.
But he's good enough to put up good numbers. He is good enough to put up good numbers,
and he has the weapons too. I mean,
he's got Justin Jefferson. He's got. We'll see how Adam Thielen is coming back from a season-ending injury. It was the end of the season, but still a season-ending injury. KJ Osborne looks like he flashed a little bit last year. Tyler Conklin flashed a little bit last year. Hopefully gets a healthy Irv Smith back.
Yep.
And haven't even taled about Dalvin Cook yet.
And we mentioned Irv Smith on our last live stream. I was wrong. It was not a ACL, MCL. It was a torn meniscus. So I was wrong. The recovery for that should be a little bit easier, a little bit better. He should be able to hit the ground running sooner than if he would have sustained an ACL tear. So to that point. But yeah, keep going.
And then this is, I think, the best thing. The Vikings are moving toward a 21st century approach to building the football team. Mike Zimmer is gone. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name of their general manager, but he's an analytics dork. He's my kind of guy.
Spielman left. I don't know who their GM is
left.
Now.
The guy has never worked in football before, so it's got a lot of people freaking out. But I think this is going to be a data-driven front office, analytics approach front office. Kirk Cousins is going to be playing in a 21st century offense for the first time since he got to Minnesota. That's why I'm excited about the potential for this Vikings team. And that goes for Justin Jefferson as well. I think both of them are going to see an uptick in production. And hence why I have Cousins as my, rounding out QB 12, rounding out the QB ones. He's not going to win you weeks. He's not going to lose you weeks. He's not going to finish as the overall QB1. He's probably not going to bottom out because he's just good enough to be right there in that low end tier of QB1s.
Yes.
I would put like Trey Lance in this area as well. I'm bullish on Trey Lance as well. I guess my only thing with Trey Lance, he played less than Justin Fields. And maybe that doesn't totally matter at this point, especially with the offensive support that Lance is going to get that Fields doesn't currently have. I guess I'm leaning a little bit more on a little extra experience that Justin Fields got this year, which is why I have Lance just outside the top 12 and Fields just in the top 12. But we're splitting hairs here. Like I could be talked into Trey Lance in the top 12.
Yeah, Justin Fields for me is just outside of the top 12. And
all right, so we're in the same ballpark.
Because I have him in the Dynasty
We're in the
league.
same ballpark.
Excuse me, and I would like to be able to rank him inside the top 12. But yeah, again, when you look at his weapons,
They're not as
He's got running backs who will detract from. I mean, if they're gonna be running the ball not with him, it doesn't count in his fantasy box score.
Right.
And if Darnell Mooney's the only wide receiver out there, yes, I know they have Cole Kmet, and I know they will try to replace Allen Robinson's role in that offense as soon as the draft or free agency. But they got a longer way to go for me. And the high-end weapon, I would just rather the high-end weapons on San Fran to the what they have on the Chicago Bears. But
that's fair.
We could see the same type of year that we saw from Jalen Hurts, if all goes well, last year for Justin Fields next season. We could. Absolutely.
You think it happens next year? Okay, fair enough.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
Not next year being 2022, it could happen.
Okay.
That's to your point. But the better bet to me for that
is Lance.
Makes
sense.
But Dan, let's get to your question here before we start talking about some Senior Bowl QBs and then wrap up the stream. But I am going to, let's see.
Can we put the rankings up?
Why isn't this working?
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to show the Spot Track screen. And right now it's not doing that.
What is this, a contract? Looking at contracts?
Yeah, because he threw into the chat, any chance we see Zeke get cut, saves cap, and it clears the way for Pollard, who just might be straight up better. We agree that we like Pollard more than Zeke at this point in their respective careers.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can. I mean, the technicals aren't working for me right now. I can't show my screen of what I'm looking at. But there's $30 million in as far as a dead cap hit for Zeke in 2022. So there is no way they cut him this year because there's no 2022 cap savings for this year if they were to cut Zeke. Now there is an out after this year, at which point it's
after
only $11 million after 2022 before the 2023 season. He will only incur, cutting him will only incur $11.8 million in dead cap, and it would be a savings of 10 mil. They would save 10 mil against the cap if they cut him before the 2023 season. But because of that, I think they hold on to Zeke for one more year.
They're stuck with him this year, yeah.
And that is the danger of teams giving star running backs big contracts, which is why we're seeing teams stray away from that model of building a team. And I mean, we're seeing that hamstring teams. It's going to hamstring the Panthers that they have to pay Christian McCaffrey for the next 5 years. It's already hamstringing the Dallas Cowboys to have to pay.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. You might see that with Kamara and his whole situation.
We absolutely
aside.
are. Look at the 70 mil in cap space.
Negative 70 mil in cap space.
Right. So we're already seeing that. They have less flexibility, and now their team looks to be on the downside, and Kamara's 26 years old. It's not great.
I'm going to be 27 when the year starts next year. When the league year starts next year. But Dan, I would love to see Zeke get cut. I would, because I think it would be better for the Dallas Cowboys, and I really like Pollard.
Pollard would pop, because Pollard right now today, I think he's younger. He is younger. I think he has more burst. I think he has more juice. I think he has more explosiveness in him right now. I think Pollard today, right now, is better than Zeke. But
he showed more explosiveness with a plantar fascia issue than Zeke did without fully healthy.
And yet his contract keeps him on the books.
Right.
There's no way around it for Dallas to cut him this year. He will be on the team in 2022, and he will, if healthy, lead the backfield in touches once again.
I hope so.
He will.
Oh, you mean Zeke, not Pollard? I hope Pollard does, but Zeke will.
Pollard should. I think Zeke will. Yeah.
And I would have shared my screen to show you what I have on showing here for me, at least on Spot Track. You can go to Spot Track yourself and check out the numbers that we just threw out to you. But yeah, it doesn't look like Zeke is going anywhere. At least next year, maybe before the 2023
maybe before
season.
2023, maybe.
Right. But you want to run through our QB rankings for Dan before we start talking about the Senior Bowl?
Sure. So really quickly, and we can touch on any one in particular if you'd like. We both had Josh Allen at 1. The top 5 is a little different for between the two of us, but we have some combination of Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I have Lamar as high as 2. That's where John has Herbert. We're in lockstep with Kyler and Mahomes at 3 and 4. I have Herbert down at 5. That's just more a numbers crunch than a knock on Herbert. But that's our top 5. 6 and 7.
I have Jackson at 5, so we were swapped there. But
so yeah, you have Lamar, right? Same argument for John, but on the other side, like numbers crunched for Lamar. There's really good quarterbacks that we have to rank. That's the thing. And 4 of them are very young and all in one conference. Good luck, AFC. 6 and 7 is Stafford and Burrow. John firmly has Burrow at 6 and Stafford at 7. I'm a little more willing to see who wins the Super Bowl before I put one of the two at 6 or 7, but I'm not changing who's going to be, nobody else is going to leapfrog them, is what I meant to say. We both have
the only person who might, for me, once we get more clarity on their situation, would be Aaron Rodgers. But we need more clarity on their situation.
Maybe cracks into, say, like the 6-7 range, but for now we'll have Stafford and Burrow over him. I have Rodgers at 8. John has him at 10. We both have Jalen Hurts at 9. John has Dak at 8. I have Dak at 10.
And I firmly acknowledge that I have Aaron Rodgers, most likely too low. That is just because
he's not that low.
When we dug into the numbers, I think I got him too low. And it will change as soon as we know where he's going to be and the weapons that he's going to be playing with. My rankings will change for Aaron Rodgers, and I will probably put him higher. But until then, I got him ranked at 10. And then you tuned in, I believe, when we were talking about Zach, which is why you asked about the Cowboys. So our rankings at 11 and 12. 11, I have Lance. 11, he has Fields. And we both have Kirk Cousins at 12.
Yeah, I have Lance right outside the top 12. John has Fields right outside the top 12. So pretty similar, just like a couple different spots.
Yeah. And if you want to check out our rankings for any other positions, we did running backs a few weeks ago, so you can check out those live streams on our channel. We did wide receivers a few weeks ago, and we just finished up tight ends this past week.
Last week, yeah.
So you can check those out as well. They're all on our channel. There you have it. QBs for the 2022 season as far as redraft is concerned.
Way too early. Will definitely change at least a couple more times. 2022 1-12 quarterback rankings.
Yep.
Courtesy of Face Mask Fantasy.
Yes, sir.
So that's an early look. Speaking of early looks, John, you had some notes. The Senior Bowl was played this past weekend. And you had one or two real quick things to say about the quarterbacks before we wrap this up today.
Well, the clear winner of the Senior Bowl, by all accounts, was Malik Willis. And he was thought to be a low first-round pick, mid-first-round pick maybe. I think he's vaulted into high first-round pick territory. Just, that's the nature of QBs. QBs get pumped up through the process, and then by the time we get to the draft, a QB's going within the first 5 picks, 6 picks. We haven't seen a QB not be picked super high in quite a while. And it was thought that this draft was going to be one of those drafts just because there was no standout, but Malik Willis is starting to stand out. At the Senior Bowl, they started tracking highest airspeed and average airspeed for throws in 2018. This is before the Josh Allen draft. Malik Willis broke records for both.
There you go.
He has the strongest arm measured of anybody drafted since 2018. and he's a rushing quarterback.
Very tantalizing. Yep.
So when you look at the raw tools for Malik Willis, I mean, you're looking at, he might not be the same rusher that Lamar Jackson is, but we're looking at what I look at to be a similar prospect coming into the NFL, with probably a little bit higher upside as a passer because he has the strongest arm measured since 2018.
I think with the arm talent upside is higher. It's like, yeah, maybe he's not as good of a rushing prospect as Lamar, and maybe he's not as good of a, maybe his prospect as like a big arm is not on the same level as Josh Allen. But if you're getting like some type of tweener combination between the two of those guys, I mean, come on.
And by all accounts, his accuracy was on point. And this is at a Senior Bowl where the weather was kind of crazy. I mean, if you think back to when the Senior Bowl was and the weather that was happening in your neck of the woods, wherever you are in the United States, the weather was a little bit crazy for everybody. But the weather was especially bad down in Mobile. It didn't bother Malik Willis because he has the strong arm. His accuracy, by all accounts, was the best of any quarterback. And he only showed erratic throws on 2 to 3 throws throughout the whole process. He took a step. He took a step. He had the highest recorded speed of anybody at the of any quarterbacks at the Senior Bowl. Like of anybody measured ever at the Senior Bowl since they started measuring that. Jalen Hurts,
his stock is going way up.
Jalen Hurts, second all time at 18.07 miles per hour. Malik Willis was measured at 20.58. So he's a better rusher than Jalen Hurts with a strong arm. So with a much stronger arm than pretty much anybody in the NFL right now. Not much stronger, but it's a stronger arm than anybody measured in the NFL, coming into the NFL right now. So his ceiling, when you put this all together, for fantasy, is a high-end QB1. If he can put it all together, find himself on a good team, put it all together, Malik Willis could be a high-end QB1. We could be seeing Kyler Murray level play from Malik Willis. I don't want to put that on a guy that hasn't even gone through the combine yet, but by all accounts, from everything that we've seen at the Senior Bowl, he's got the highest upside of any quarterback in this class, and one of the highest upsides as a prospect that we've seen from pretty much anybody coming out in quite a while. I'm not going to put him in the Josh Allen basket because despite everything that I just mentioned, Josh Allen was just a different cat, built different. I mean, 6'5", 240, beast, and he has all those aspects. Malik Willis ain't that. Malik Willis
is smaller than Lamar.
Right. That's why I said Kyler. He's not as small as Kyler, but I feel like that's the type of prospect we're looking at, and because of that, he's probably going to be going pretty high. Now, what teams do you think are going to be in on him?
I mean, yeah. So
I mean, the Lions pick at 2.
No, I think there's enough good non-quarterback prospects where he probably cracks. I won't say probably, like maybe he cracks the top 10.
I think the Giants have two picks in the first, they have the 5th overall pick and the 7th overall pick. The Panthers have the 6th overall pick. I think Houston's pretty set with at least seeing what they have in Davis Mills. I don't know if they go Malik Willis at 3, but I could see the Panthers going all in at 6. I could see the Giants saying, we don't love Daniel Jones. We got a whole new front office in here. Let's start fresh and get our Josh Allen level ceiling prospect, or at least the best thing we have in comparison to that in this year's draft in Malik Willis, we could see the Giants with one of their 2 top 10 picks go Malik Willis. That would be very interesting. The Atlanta Falcons at 8, absolutely in the quarterback market. I believe they should have drafted. They should have drafted Fields last year. They didn't.
They should.
Maybe they course correct and draft Malik Willis this year at 8.
Maybe.
The Denver Broncos at 9. One of these teams is gonna go all in at quarterback. I don't think he lasts till 11, where the Washington Commanders can get him. And then after that, pretty much all the other teams are solidified at quarterback until you get to the Saints, and I don't see them having the capital to move up, and the Steelers, and I don't see them having the capital to move up. But yeah, man, I don't think by the and what's going on, AB? How you doing, bro? I don't see Malik Willis getting out of the top 10, and I think there's a real good chance he goes to the Panthers or the Falcons, possibly the Giants if they want to move away from Daniel Jones.
Which I feel like, I don't know, the vibe that I get is they do.
The vibe that I get is they do. By all accounts, I mean, if you look at the way the Bills built their current team, they went out and got the highest upside quarterback they could, and built from the ground up. And I mean, I feel like if Joe Sheen and Brian Dable want to bring that same mentality to the Giants in their new home, they're gonna go out and do the same thing that Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane did in their second year together. They're gonna go out and get the highest upside quarterback that they can in the draft, and see what happens. See if they can build around him. But I don't think, because of what Malik Willis did at the Senior Bowl, I don't think he falls out of the top 10.
Okay. I mean, there's plenty of teams there that you just named could use a quarterback. So
Panthers, Falcons, Giants. Those are my 3 bets for the guys that are gonna land Willis.
I still am willing to bet personally that Corral ends up being the first quarterback off the board, just because
Matt Corral.
Corral. Golden Corral. Coral, whatever.
Been watching too much Walking Dead. Coral.
I think the fact that he faced SEC competition and did a pretty good job, and I don't think by any accounts he disappointed in the Senior Bowl. I think I think he's the first quarterback off the board, but yeah, from a fantasy perspective, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the first quarterback that I want from this class. Willis has all of the intangibles.
Now, I did say that all the quarterback prospects earlier in the stream, I said that all the quarterback prospects were at the Senior Bowl. Matt Corral was not. He was the one that was not. Kenny Pickett was, Sam Howell was, Carson Strong was, Malik Willis was, Desmond Ridder was.
Desmond Ridder had a nice game. He's going to be a name to keep an eye on.
From an arm strength and tools perspective, Carson Strong has the next strongest arm to Malik Willis. And Kenny Pickett was kind of the guy that people thought maybe had some intangibles there, but he did not show out very well at the Senior Bowl. So the rest of these quarterbacks are a little bit more of a mixed bag. We're going to have to see what they do at the Combine and go through a little bit more of the pre-draft process before we get a little bit more of a handle on these quarterbacks. But I mean, I'm pretty strong in my belief that Malik Willis is going to be a top 10 quarterback drafted. It's the most important position in the sport. And I feel like we're going to see teams try to go out and get their Josh Allen. Try to go out and get the high, do what they can to get the highest upside prospect they can and see if they can build him up from the ground up.
Right.
Whereas, in the past it was, who's the most pro-ready quarterback? We're going to go out and get that guy. That hasn't worked out for teams. The teams that are in the Super Bowl and the teams that are in the playoffs doing real well perennially went and got the highest upside guys. Pat Mahomes wasn't the highest drafted quarterback in his draft. Josh Allen, neither. Joe Burrow, neither. Or Joe Burrow was.
Yeah, he was just first overall.
He was. Shut up. But that's all I got to say about the Senior Bowl as far as the quarterbacks are concerned. If anybody has any questions about them, let me know. But Ant Garcia, let's get to your question. Biggest sleeper next year, wide receiver and RB options available are Waddle, Davis, St. Brown, Etienne, Singletary, J.K. Dobbins.
I don't know. Waddle's not a sleeper at this point,
and neither is St. Brown.
Neither St. Brown.
Davis? Is that Corey Davis? Which Davis is that?
Gabe
Davis?
From this group, I would say it's Dobbins, because people are going to naturally have recency bias on a player who missed the entire year due to injury. I think J.K. Dobbins is a fantastic attempt at a buy.
Yeah, but I don't think he's a sleeper. Try to go and get J.K. Dobbins from I think the biggest sleeper right now is Etienne.
Okay.
Because the team was bad. They got a lot of holes to fill.
James Robinson
suffered
is
an
injury late.
Right. I think go out. I think if you're trying to
probably Etienne. I guess Dobbins isn't much of a sleeper at this point.
He's not a sleeper.
He did enough in his rookie season to
He's not a sleeper.
My first thought was because he missed the whole season.
Right. I would say Etienne is the sleeper here. Sure. Devin Singletary, the team will probably go out and try to replace him through the draft or free agency.
I think the team was gonna they're gonna move on from Zach Moss, I would think.
Yeah, but I think they like Singletary as a 1B guy, which is why they went out and got Zach Moss and why they were trying Matt Breida halfway through the year. Yes, Devin Singletary came on strong at the end of the year and showed out in the playoffs to a certain extent, but it was clear to me they don't want to use him that way, and they used him that way out of necessity because the other running backs in their offense just weren't that good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they want him in a 1B role, or else they wouldn't have drafted Zach Moss. So I don't think Devin Singletary. I think we've seen the best from Devin Singletary that we will see, and I think his role gets scaled back somewhat significantly going into next year. I don't think they go into next year with Devin Singletary as the RB1 in their offense. So yeah, if I'm looking at sleepers, Etienne.
Okay.
If I'm looking at sleeper for wide receiver, Waddle is no sleeper.
No.
And neither is St. Brown. Gabe Davis is intriguing, but I think the price you're going to have to pay now is just too high. I think you got to wait.
Can't imagine he's a sleeper anymore after that playoff game.
Right, but I to that point, we heard rumblings about people paying first-round picks in Dynasty for him, mid-first-round picks in 2023 and 2022. It's a little too much. I think we got to wait until maybe the team drafts somebody, maybe free agency opens and they go out and spend a little money. Maybe the thought process being Gabe Davis falls down the depth chart again, and then you buy. But I probably wouldn't be. If you're looking for a sleeper, at the end of the day, Etienne is the sleeper there. For me.
Yeah, agreed.
And favorite player and team, all time or currently? As far as player. And I'm a Bills fan, Nick's an Eagles fan.
Yeah, those are favorite teams.
My favorite player by default right now is it's going to be Josh Allen for a long time.
Yeah, that's hard to.
Outside of just being a Bills fan, he is one of the most fun players to watch in the NFL.
He is. He's incredibly fun to watch.
That's my favorite player playing right now. He's not my favorite player.
Yeah, he's up there. He's up there.
What about you?
I don't know who my favorite player is right now. I don't know. I've liked Devontae Adams for a long time. Watching him play the receiver position is like
He's
an
incredible.
art form.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it was Antonio Brown before. It was Antonio Brown before. It's hard to have him as my favorite player anymore. So he's like he's a past as far as like a guy that I've always really enjoyed watching.
I think he comes back at some point in like a year.
Well, whatever, but like in what capacity, and how can you possibly what's there to feel about Antonio Brown anymore these days? I don't know.
There's one guy who can play until he's 40 and
he can play. I don't know. As far as a favorite player, I don't know that he's there for me anymore.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
You used to love Kamara.
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't remember that I ever like outwardly spoke about.
Aaron Jones was one of your favorite players for a while?
Aaron Jones has been one of my favorite guys. Been one of my guys for a long time. There's no doubt about that.
I said Kamara. That was a joke. I was joking.
Oh, you're a clown. No. I like Aaron Jones. I definitely do like Aaron Jones. I have a sweet spot for Aaron Jones for sure. And then as far as like an Eagles player, I mean, just to throw out, I mean, I don't know. Dang, now I'm on the spot. I mean, Brian Dawkins is like an obvious one. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. My fandom has evolved over the years. It used to be I hated so many players, and now there's so many. Like now, like getting more. I feel like getting more into fantasy. There's more players that I like. There's more players that I root for, even if they're not on like one of my core teams. I don't dislike that player.
Oh yeah.
I feel like my mindset has changed. I've gone soft. What the hell's wrong with me?
Yeah, respect. But yeah, there you go. And what what about all time? You said Brian Dawkins?
I guess AB gave his all time as Charles Woodson. That's pretty damn good
respect
one.
To Charles Woodson, Hall of Famer right there.
He was a baller.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc is up there. I liked Brian. I mean, Brian Westbrook was awesome. Man, in his heyday, he was awesome. Favorite player all time, not an Eagle, probably LaDainian Tomlinson. That was like watching a video game in real life.
Yeah.
That was watching Madden on easy mode. So.
I wish I would have been paying attention to football to see him in his prime, but I was not.
It was a wild thing to see. Crumbly Heads, what's going on, man? Formerly known as, you already know.
It's popping.
Yeah.
And my favorite player of all time, homer pick, but it's Fred Jackson. It's Fred Jackson.
I thought you were gonna say Fred Taylor. Fred Jackson was a pretty good player for the Bills.
He started in NFL Europe and worked his way onto the Bills practice squad. And then the Bills drafted Marshawn Lynch. And who outlasted Marshawn Lynch in Buffalo? Fred Jackson. And then the Bills drafted C.J. Spiller. Who outlasted C.J. Spiller in Buffalo at the running back position? Fred Jackson. He was just that guy. He just continuously was just like a good locker room presence. By all accounts, a good family dude. Always willing to give a good interview, and for the longest time as a Bills fan, that's all I had was good interviews because the team sucked so badly.
The team was not good.
Yeah, it was just cool to see a guy just continually work. And the team not believe in him, and then he just continuously was just like, I don't care. I'm gonna outperform C.J. Spiller. I'm gonna outlast Marshawn Lynch. I just always had respect for that. So. Little bit of a homer pick for my favorite player of all time, but that's Fred Jackson.
There you go.
But Crumply Heads, should I drop De'Ami Brown in Dynasty? No.
Nah, I wouldn't.
No.
There's not a whole lot in Washington.
There are a few rookie wide receivers that I would consider just outright dropping. He isn't one of them yet.
He's not one of them, not yet.
Got to see how they approach the quarterback position, and we got to see how they approach that secondary wide receiver there. Because, I mean, we're going to get to Curtis Samuel in a second. Curtis Samuel can be a sleeper, I guess. I don't have much faith that experiment is going to work out.
If he stays healthy, I mean, to this kind of the same. It's the same argument about De'Ami Brown. If he stays in Washington, there's just not that much there. There's plenty of room for work. There's plenty of opportunity for work. So yeah, I think Curtis Samuel can be a sleeper. I do.
Yeah, to me, he was always just a name that was tantalizing because of what he brought
in his gadget role in Carolina. It just didn't work out in Washington because of injury.
He's just never been a guy that I looked at in fantasy. I want him on my squad.
He's like a poor man's Debo. But I mean that like as a compliment. I'm like he is a versatile player. You can put him in the backfield. He can run. He can run out of the slot. He can fulfill that dual threat role if an offense wants it.
I think that role's better suited to Antonio Gibson.
Well, don't tell Washington that. They don't seem to agree. I think Curtis Samuel could be fine. Let's put it this way: he will be free in drafts.
Yes, and Nick is higher on Curtis Samuel than I am. I just have to see how free agency in the draft shakes out for the Washington Commanders. Commanders, the Commies.
The Commies, yes, they are here. They are henceforth known as the Washington Commies.
Yeah, and I mean they got the red jerseys and the red logo. It just come on now, bro. What were you thinking? But yeah, not a huge fan of Curtis Samuel, but if he does well, cool. Where do we see Rojo going?
I don't know. I mean, more and more you see teams getting away from signing running backs in free agency unless it's if there's a very specific player that fits a very specific role. I don't know. Like I guess he could he re-up with the Bucks? I mean, they have a lot of money tied to other players.
My problem with Rojo is, yes, he can run the ball, but he is one of the worst running backs historically, not even just currently in the NFL, but historically in pass protection win rates. He cannot pass protect to save his life, and that is a huge part of running the ball. And that's why
running back into
that's why Bruce Arians got Leonard Fournette involved last year. That's why Bruce Arians, after they got Leonard, or not 2 years ago, not last year, they went out and got Gio Bernard, even though they had Leonard Fournette and Rojo and Keyshawn Vaughn. They went out and got Gio because better pass protector, better pass catcher. Pure rushers, I feel like Ronald Jones would have been a much better back and a much better fantasy back in like the 2010s, when there was more emphasis on running the ball, and if you were a good rusher, you got the ball, regardless of whether you were a good pass protector. Now, considering the game has changed, you got to find a 1B role for him. I don't think he can be a number one running back in the NFL or even a 1A. I think you're looking at he's a timeshare back. So you're looking at teams that have a need at 1B or RB2 in terms of just running backs. And off the top of my head, I don't know. I can't really think of one.
I'm not sure where he ends up. And there's not too many landing spots at this point in time where it's like, would I really feel good where Ronald Jones ends up?
Unless he ends up in the role that Arizona had for James Conner.
Yeah.
That's like
They're just going to probably re-sign Conner.
And yeah, they would probably just re-sign Conner. I'd have to look at their cap situation to see how likely that would be. But that would be like
Like the teams that have cap space, like Pittsburgh has cap space. Ronald Jones isn't going there.
No.
And even if he did, it's like, well, there goes his career. He's not supplanting Najee.
Yeah, he'll be Benny Snell 2.0.
Yeah, like the Colts, don't they have cap space? So forget it. The Bengals you mentioned, forget it. Like, where's Ronald Jones going where it's like, oh, yeah, like he could retain or he could get back a 1A job? Like Seattle, maybe, but like, why would they do that?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think he's gonna have to settle
Buffalo,
for like
the Bills?
RB3 money. No,
Like the Bills
no.
Bills have Singletary already. They might just draft a guy. Like,
I believe that
Dolphins,
the Bills would rather. I mean, yeah, maybe the Dolphins.
I guess the Dolphins.
Maybe the Dolphins. They're always looking for a running back, and they were. I mean, maybe the Texans.
Houston.
The Texans. That seems like a good landing spot. For Rojo is the Texans. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe Houston, or Miami.
Yeah.
I guess I would feel a little bit better about Miami. Miami's offensive line stinks. They're not good.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be smart for them to draft or to sign a running back that can't pass protect to a team with no O-line. Like that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can't pass protect and can't catch passes, you don't have much of a role in the NFL.
Nah. I'm not sure how I feel about
the Eagles for a Jordan Howard replacement. I don't know. I don't know.
Nah, I don't know about that. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's very touch and go with a Ronald Jones, like where he ends up and who else that team ends up with. We'll see. See, we're talking about Curtis was the OG before Debo.
He topped out at wide receiver 25 last year. So, yes, he was used in this. He was a gadgety player.
Yeah.
He's what we wanted Laviska Shenault to be. But I'm not comparing him to any sort of poor man Debo. I'm not. I feel like that's just mean to Debo. But I get your point. I get your point. And how they're used, I get it. And how they're used, I get it. The comparison can be made.
Yeah, that's it. That's all. The roles are you can look at their roles over the past couple of years and pull some similarities. That's all.
Yep.
And
AB, we care who your favorite player is. Respect to Charles Woodson. He was one of my favorite players when he was playing for the Packers.
Some sleeper plays for next year. I got one that comes to
that is going to be our topic going into the Thursday stream.
Oh, that's right.
It's going to be all about dynasty sleepers, dynasty buys. So
well, or
Nick will give you the
might not necessarily be dynasty that Anthony's asking.
Well, just buys for next year then. Nick will give you the one for today as a teaser, but make sure to come through on Thursday.
I'll give one quick teaser, but John is right. We are going to do some guys who it's the trend on Thursday's show, again, 6 p.m. Eastern, will be buy low guys. Maybe their stock isn't super high, but we feel okay about them in the 2022 season. The two of us might not agree, but it's just from a personal perspective. Just one real quick teaser on that today. I kind of like Michael Carter. That's probably going to be tough to buy in Dynasty because he's so young. But the Jets are in it, appear to be, they have the pieces to be an ascending offense, and they have a very high pick this year. It's not going to be a quarterback. So the team is going to get better. Could very well be on offense. If they're able to get all their pieces back healthy, because they all missed a lot of time, Zach Wilson, Elijah Moore, Carter himself, if they're all healthy and ready to go week one, with Mekhi Becton, I think the Jets have a decent makings of a decent offensive line.
Mekhi Becton he's switching to right tackle because the team has no faith in him being a left tackle anymore. So, they might go out and spend draft capital.
Who's the guy I'm thinking of?
Mekhi Becton was drafted recently very high and thought to be a very good
but he didn't work.
Tackle prospect. He didn't work out this past year.
I'm thinking about somebody else. Okay, scratch that. They have they still have pieces in place. They have Wilson, they have Elijah Moore, and Carter had a stretch this past year where he was putting up a few RB1 weeks in a row.
Quietly,
I feel like he's flying under the radar a little bit right now just because it's the Jets and he missed time toward the end of the season. I don't know. I think he's an interesting play for 2022, but we will put a pin in that conversation. Like John said, we will reveal some more guys that we like as far as maybe some buy lows or guys that are maybe flying under the radar a little bit for the 2022 season on Thursday.
And I'm just going to give you one sleeper.
Do it.
Hey, why not? Isaiah McKenzie. I think he takes Cole Beasley's spot, and Cole Beasley was a good bet to put up low to mid-tier wide receiver 2 weeks, like every other week, seemingly, as one of the safety blankets for Josh Allen. And I know another Bills player. I'll stop soon. But I think Isaiah McKenzie is the in-house replacement for Cole Beasley because they can cut Cole Beasley and save $8 million against the cap. And I like high-octane offenses, and I like paying nothing for players that are going to be in high-octane offenses and probably used heavily. I mean, we saw him get 12 targets in a game this year. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that he takes that role over full time, and he's absolutely free right now. He can be had with your last pick in a draft, and in Dynasty, I bet you wouldn't have to pay anything more than a couple of fourths for him. So if he's on another person's team, chances are he's on the waiver wire. So there you go. But
there you go.
Like Nick said, tune into our live stream next week, or not next week,
Thursday
in 2 days. And we'll give you a full list of players that we like as buys and sleepers for the 2022 season.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, AB, half the league might have a bad quarterback situation. Yeah,
I feel fine about Curtis Samuel, AB. I really do. I mean, he might be featured in Thursday's show. I think people are gonna, if he's healthy, maybe he flies under the radar all off season as like everyone's kind of forgotten about him. If he's just healthy and we know he's playing week 1, this is a train that I can get on board.
My problem is he always seemingly was a little bit overhyped to me. And yes, he finished as the wide receiver 25 in 2020, but that's still high-end wide receiver 3.
Who was the quarterback?
I know it was Alex Smith, who was dumping off.
No. He was in Carolina. It was his last year in Carolina.
Kyle Allen and Teddy Bridgewater.
That's right. It was Teddy Bridgewater. Still woof.
Yeah. Still woof.
Half the league has bad quarterbacks.
Yes.
Yes.
He has shown flashes. It's just, to me, when I've tried to invest in those gadgety players, it doesn't work out. We've seen it work out with Debo, but I feel like that's the anomaly. That's like that shouldn't be an archetype to chase, because we've seen guys like Laviska Shenault completely fall off the map. And I feel like Curtis Samuel was, while he was still young, he's still young. I think he's only 26. I don't know.
I'm buying.
Maybe I'll come around on him. We'll have a larger discussion about him in 2 days.
He'll be a factor in Thursday's show.
All right,
there's no doubt.
Let me dig into his numbers a little bit. Maybe I'll come around on Thursday, but as of right now, nah. And no, John does not want to hear anything about Rojo to Buffalo. Don't speak that into the universe.
That's the one hypothetical Bills storyline that John doesn't want to touch.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
It's not going to happen. Something tells me.
I hope not.
But yeah, it's difficult to identify the sleepers. AB, you're right. AB, it's like it's a bit of a crapshoot. But there are calculations that we can make, and identify some different things that we can. Obviously injuries are a factor. Off-field things that might happen are impossible to predict. All that type of stuff, but there are certain situations that you can identify and feel good about. Doesn't mean you're going to be right, but there's a method to the madness. There's a bit of an approach that you can try to take to figure out, okay, does this guy's situation bode well for his chances this year? And maybe that's what we do on Thursday. We try to dive into that a little bit and identify some very early sleepers and buy low candidates where we feel pretty good about their situation as far as we know what it is, because that's kind of key right now when having fantasy conversations. What situations do we feel most stable about?
And a lot of these are subject to change once the draft happens,
Sure,
once free agency happens. So this will be a discussion that we'll have
regardless.
Multiple times throughout the off season, right here on these live streams. So stay tuned to Face Mask, y'all. But hey, and Anthony, who's your favorite player of all time? We got AB's, we got ours. I want to know yours before we close down the stream.
Okay, putting a lot of pressure on him just like that.
Do it.
Fair enough.
I'd put on the Jeopardy music if I could, but I'd get copyright struck.
We don't want that.
Aaron
but
Rodgers
that does,
come
I
and
think,
get us.
pending if we get that little tidbit from Anthony. That is the end of today's stream. We've mentioned this several times already, but we will be back on Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And again, we will be looking into some potential sleepers, some potential buy lows for the 2022 season. This can cover Dynasty. This can cover Redraft. And we'll probably do a little bit of both for those who play one or the other, if not both. So hopefully that helps. Looking forward to it.
And as always, feel free to ask us any questions in the chat. We love to have a conversation with you guys. Dan, come back. We could talk more about your Cowboys if that is your team, if you're still in here. But yeah. Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the discussions. We love having them with y'all. So
absolutely.
I hope come back on Thursday, 6 p.m. EST. But hey, better late than never, AB. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by as always.
If you missed the ranking segment, go back and check it out. But thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, great day tomorrow, and we'll see you on Thursday to go over some sleepers.
Sounds good. See you then.
And I'm still waiting, Ant. If you're still in here, I'm still waiting.
You can wait. I'm shutting off.
Peace, y'all.